Much of what Derby achieved under Clough was down to the strike rate of Hector and to the accuracy of Alan Hinton. His pinpoint crosses were one thing, his powerful shooting was something else.
And a great goal by Hinton. That's the way to pick them out of the blue.
Boiling with excitement now. As Hinton goes across to take this corner. Derby County leading 2-0, and good football from both sides now. Here's the in-swinger by Hinton. Coming in, up goes Hector. It's there, number 3.
The game's still on. It's Durban for McGovern. And a tickle. A back heel from Hinton. Hinton, a terrible... in fact, he's given the free kick. Referee Keith Walker could have given the other decision. Oh, there's Durban. Oh, what a perfect little goal. Alan Durban.
In the FA Cup, another 40,000 packed the baseball ground for the visit of Wolves.
And the referee walking towards the spot, and he's pointed to it. He's given it. So Hinton, who can really pack them against Parks.
McGovern faced by O'Kane with Hindley in support. McGovern there. And it's Hinton. That's handled up the line by Chapman. I said earlier that Ian Moore was a dead shot from the penalty spot, but I could say the same thing about Hinton. He knows what he's doing, but we'll see now whether he puts Derby into the lead. He did. The man looking most unhappy walking out of the box now is Ted Hemsley. Back in the side, missing 2 games recently, and here's Hinton's penalty. It's 3-0 Derby.
McFarlane, Gamble for Derby. Hinton to Hennessy. McFarlane. Hinton. That was Hinton's hammer. One of the strongest shots in football with that left foot. Derby set for a short one. That's Hector and Hinton. Hinton. No wonder Alan Hinton is called the best crosser of a ball in the game.
That one from Book, Durban, Hinton. He's got Hector up with him. The others are arriving fast. Webster! Oh, yes!
Big Roger Davis. And it's come for Hinton. And he can whack it from there. Oh, yes! That will do for Alan Hinton. It's 2-0 Derby. 36 minutes into the first half, and that happy fellow, Alan Hinton, top goal scorer for the club now. His 6th league goal of the season. Hinton, Webster, Hinton the cross now. Oh yes! We want 4 is what the crowd is shouting. Hinton might just be the man to deliver it for them. And that is Hector! And they've got their 4! How about that? So this dead ball specialist, Hinton. Far post, and it's Davis! That's another one! Roger Davis scores his first ever league goal!
In the UEFA Cup, victory on penalties over Atletico Madrid earned the Rams a 3rd round tie against Yugoslav opponents, the first leg at Derby.
Webster. Hinton.
Oh, what a brilliant goal! A superb goal by Alan Hinton!
Hello, my friend, we'll meet again. It's been a while, where should we begin? Feels like
all I can tell you is what I honestly believe. I believe we'll be giving 110% effort at all times. I think that the playoffs has got to be the early goal, and after that anything is possible. But I'd like to take each game as it comes, be professional, work hard on and off the field, and be a credit to our club, the Seattle Sounders.
I am so high, I can hear heaven. I am so high, I can hear heaven.
Well, I think that there's no way this bunch of great guys who liked each other were going to lose this championship, or they were not going to win it, because they deserve to win it. We'd had a great couple of years here. We got into a very, very good team.
And they say that a hero can save us. I'm not gonna stand here and wait. I'll hold on to the wings of the eagles. Watch as we all fly away. And they're watching us. They're watching us as we all fly away. They're watching us. They're watching us as we all fly away. Yeah. They're watching us. They're watching us as we all fly away.
What an incredible evening this is going to be. Good evening and welcome to an evening with Alan Hinton and friends. My name is Mark Wright. I anchor the news for King 5 in Seattle. I am so honored to be your moderator for tonight's program. It's really just a celebration of soccer in the Pacific Northwest and a celebration of the people who built our soccer structure here in the Northwest, and this guy has been at the heart of it for decades, so it's a celebration of Alan. So please help me in welcoming this guy, Alan Hinton, to our stage.
Well, thank you, Mark, and thank you for being here. You are the top man in the news TV, and he also loves soccer as well, which is a big deal. So thank you for coming. I've just about calmed down, because saying hi and hugging everybody is so lovely in many ways, but it's, when you get to my age, you get stressed out a little bit, because most of the people I've talked to, or all of them, I want to talk to them for more. So thank you for coming. We have a wonderful cause, the Washington Legends. We have a great group. We've had a great team of people that's put this together. I'm not going to mention them individually, but everybody's worked so hard. I hope you had some good food from Carmine's, which was outstanding. The beer was provided by the Northwest Brewers, I think, and sponsored by the Sounders and Crossfire. So it's wonderful for me. By the way, last time I was in this room, I was at a celebration of a friend's life. And I always wondered then, why didn't the guy who died realize how much people loved him when he was alive? So it's happening to me tonight, right? So,
Alan, thank you. I think that's a perfect beginning to our program. So as Alan mentioned, tonight really is also a benefit for the nonprofit Washington State Legends of Soccer. Throughout the night, you're going to learn more about the mission of this nonprofit, which is dedicated to preserving our soccer history and also building its future. So by being here tonight, you are helping carry out its mission. So give yourselves a round of applause for supporting soccer in the Northwest. And as Alan mentioned, tonight would not be possible without the support of our generous sponsors, so please help me in thanking our title sponsor, Seattle Sounders FC. Our presenting sponsors tonight, Washington Youth Soccer and Tacoma Stars, along with Roughneck, Carmines of Bellevue, Crossfire, and North Coast Brewing Company. Please help me in thanking those sponsors tonight. I'd also like to recognize a couple of dignitaries in the room tonight before we get started. First up, former Congressman Jim McDermott, a longtime soccer supporter and Sounders season ticket holder. Jim, where are you? It's great to have you here, Jim. Thank you so much. And also, King County Council member Pete von Reichbauer, whom you will hear from in just a little bit. Pete, where are you? Are you here? Thank you so much, Pete. We'll hear from him in a bit. Okay, this is the fun part now. We get down to business. If you know Alan Hinton, chances are very good that you have what I call Alan moments that you remember in your life. So these are times when this man did or said something that made you realize how special he is, that made you realize how big his heart is, and that made you realize how much he cares for the game of soccer. We're going to be joined by some very special people in Alan's life in just a little bit. Brian Schmetzer, Bernie James, Jeff Stock, and Marcus Hahnemann. But Alan, I want to start first with your childhood. You know, you grew up in England. Can you remember the first time you started kicking a soccer ball?
Well, once we recovered after World War II, and I was a World War II baby, we lived in sponsored housing, like most people in those days, and it was pretty easy to get a soccer ball. And as most people know, the English were really good at building brick walls. And a brick wall is the best thing you can practice against. So I used to practice against the brick wall, and I didn't get much encouragement at home because I was one of 3 boys. We were poor. And there used to be a guy come from his factory with his overalls on every night at 5:30. And he said something really kind to me. He said, "Young man, you keep doing that and you'll be a professional one day." Now, I never had that kind of encouragement. And then all of a sudden, have a guess who was out there every night at 5:30? Me. And I was a choir boy in a great church, 3 boys all in the choir. I played at St. Bart's School. I played for the Southeast Staffordshire boys team. I played for Birmingham County. And then all the scouts used to come and watch us play. So it was a good upbringing.
What I think is interesting about that time, Alan, is that soccer culture in England was so well developed. I'm guessing every kid dreamed of becoming a professional soccer player. We're sort of still in our infancy here in Seattle, but I'm so encouraged by where we're going with the MLS and with our Sounders. Talk about the early days. You told me that you used to collect beer bottles with your buddies, empty beer bottles, and turn them in to get a few pennies so you could go try to see the games.
Me and my mate Roy Morley, one week we'd go to West Brom, which was 8 miles away. We'd often walk. Next week we'd go to Wolves, which is about 8 miles away. And particularly at West Brom, we'd go to the turnstiles. We'd carry a brown sack in our pocket. And we'd go to the turnstile guy and say, "Hey, mister, can we get under the turnstile?" And he'd say, "Get under, you cheeky bugger, get under." So we'd get under the turnstiles for nothing. Immediately we go down the front. In those days, the crowd would put the kids over their shoulders to the front. That's where all the empty beer bottles were. So my mate Roy Morley and I used to collect the beer bottles, take them round to the off license, and we'd get like a shilling or 2 shillings, and it was a lot of money for us. But, you know, we'd collect the autographs of the players, and we just loved the game. And 1 week Wolves, one week West Brom.
So all that practice really paid off when you were 15 years old. You were signed as an apprentice player with the Wolves, Wolverhampton. So suddenly you're 15 years old, you join an organization that is staffed by people you idolized on the field. What was that like as a 15-year-old kid?
Well, Wolverhampton Wanderers, if anybody remembers that far back, were probably the best team in the world at that time. They were huge. They're now making a serious comeback, and they're doing great. I was over there a few months ago. I got 4 tickets in the director's box, and they treated me great. So in those days, because I loved that team so much, all of a sudden I'm an apprentice pro. Really, I was a ground staff boy, which means cleaning the ground up and taking care of the uniforms. And all of a sudden, one of the coaches came to me and he said, "Alan, you don't like it very much when some of these top players take the mickey out of you having fun with you. and his name was Bill Shorthouse. And I said, Bill, I don't like it very much. I don't know what they're trying to do to me. He said, they think you're going to be a top player. That's why they're doing it. And they go, see those two over there? They got no chance. They don't do it with them, do they? And it took a weight off my shoulders. And that's coaching, and that's man management. And I had a lot of examples like that. But I'll just go back a moment to my dad. When I played for South East Staffordshire Boys, which was huge in the English Schoolboy Shield, there was 20, 30 scouts there on a Saturday morning. And I was watching the parents gravitate to the coaches, to the scouts. My dad's up here. And I'm going, come on, Dad, you got to go and promote your son. He says, son, if they like you, they'll find me. And actually 7 teams did find me. But then I wanted to go to Manchester City. You know what my dad said? Son, you're 15 years of age, son. You're not ready to go off on your own. You're staying with me. So I shared a bed in our poor home with my brother until I was 22 years of age, until I got married to my dear wife. And the night I played for England against France, I came home, I slept with my brother Brian, because we had a 3-bedroom house. No, we had a 3-bedroom house, didn't we? And it was plumbing freezing, because the central heating, no chance. Toilet down the backyard. So life was good, and then I finally bought a car. I bought a small car. These pros today, before they even play a game, they've got penthouses and sports cars, and it's a different world. But the toughness in our day certainly helped me become pretty good, I think.
You had some tough coaches. Yeah, that's worth an applause, yeah. I mean, what I think is really interesting is that Alan had some, really tough coaches in the beginning, one in particular. And you not only had to learn how to deal with that tough coach, but you also, there was a dynamic where your dad came and talked to the coach one time because you were afraid you were going to get fired.
Well, most people know I wasn't very good at heading the ball, and I certainly wasn't very good at tackling, which meant I shouldn't make the grade. So Sergeant Major Cullis, the bully coach, wrote to my dad when I was 16, and he said, Mr. Hinton, if your son doesn't get tougher, he's not going to make it. So my dad made an arrangement to go see the Sergeant Major on a Tuesday afternoon. I'll never forget it. He said, son, I'm going to see Mr. Cullis on Tuesday afternoon. I'm not going. I'm not going. He'll fire me. Because he was a real bully. So my dad said, you come in, and I went in the room, and I was shaking. My dad done him like a kipper. My dad said, Mr. Cullis, I just want you to know I've taken an afternoon off work and I'm not getting paid right now, so I've got a question for you. What's that, Mr. Hinton? Do I know my son better than you? And Mr. Cullis said, I would hope so. Mr. Hinton, you're his dad. So my dad said, well, let me tell you how to handle him. Stop bullying him. Stop shouting at him from the sidelines. Put your arm around him a little bit and lead him on a piece of string like I do, and he'll play for England one day. And have a guess what? I did play for England.
Another of your coaches, was it at Nottingham, told you to do some push-ups in the nettles?
No, that was when I went to Derby County and Brian Clough. Now, Brian Clough was a nice bully. There's bad bullies and there's nice bullies. And when I joined Derby from Forest, let's back up a minute. When I was at Forest, I didn't want to leave Wolves because I loved the Wolves because it was my hometown team. So when I was at Forest, all of a sudden, my wife, well, first of all, my wife and I, we were both from the same little town in Wednesbury. We were having a lovely time together, so we said, let's get married. So we arranged the wedding for October 19th, 1964. Better get that right. So anyway, because she never got married on a Saturday, because that was game day. In the church, the church never had weddings on a Sunday. So we arranged for the wedding 6 months before on a Monday at 11 o'clock in the morning. 2 weeks before the wedding, I got a call from Sir Alf Ramsey, who wasn't a Sir then. He was the manager of England. He said, "I've pictured for the England national team against Belgium. When is it? Wednesday night, 7 o'clock at Wembley." So now I had to phone him up, and I'm still so proud of myself today, because if I would have said, "I got a problem," he would have said, "No, you don't. I'll get somebody else." That's what he would have said. That was English blunt. So I go, "I'm so happy you picked me to play. I'm looking forward to the game. But I have an issue." "What's that?" I said, "Well, I'm scheduled to get married 11 o'clock Monday morning in Wednesbury." He says, "Oh, great." He said, "I'll see you 7 o'clock Monday night at the Hinton Hall Hotel in London." So all of a sudden, the newspapers headlines, "Loneliest bride in Britain." And I have to tell you something, that I knew I got a good one when she's in one hotel in London. I'm sharing a room with Fred Pickering from Everton, who actually just died 2 weeks ago, and he was a great guy, and he was laughing at me all night. So anyway, she's in a hotel in London. She gets a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning from the London Mirror saying, "Your husband has given us permission to take a photograph with you in your negligee." So being a good, solid school teacher type that she was, she put the phone down, didn't she? Now, how many people would have said, "Oh, wait, my husband, oh, yeah. But no. So I played for England. We beat Belgium 2-1, or it was a tie, I forget. And then the next time I played against Wales and we won 2-0, I made both the goals. Then I never played again. Because the coach, Alf Ramsey, was a right back. He played without wingers. And today, I don't know whether I would make it today. I'd make it today based on crossing and shooting and getting a goal and assists. But doing that defensive work didn't make sense to me. You know? Hey, I'm 76. My wife and my daughter put all these little photographs together, which I'm sure you enjoyed. My wife loves the one that I'm covered in mud, because she said, "I never saw you covered in mud before." And we played on the muddiest fields ever. So I played for England. England won the World Cup in '66. I lost my way a little bit. I think it was, looking back, I was a bit upset that I didn't make that group. So then I signed for Derby County and Brian Clough.
Where is Joy? Joy, could you stand up so we could just recognize you?
I got to tell you a story. This is not really true, but it makes sense. We've been married almost 55 years. And the secret for a great marriage is this. We go to a romantic restaurant once a week, probably Carmine's. But here's the deal. She goes on a Tuesday, and I go on a Friday. Sorry, darling, that's not true. Yeah.
So you'd never know that Alan was stressing out in the days leading up to tonight. He told me that, he said, "Mark, I'm a little bit concerned because sometimes English humor, just Americans don't get it. Like Mr. Bean. I've watched that hundreds of times, and I don't get it. But that was funny. That was really funny."
Hey, there's more to come, Mark.
I don't know about you, but in the weeks leading up to this, I really started looking at that old film of Alan playing. I was just so impressed. His legs were like tree trunks, and when he would cross the ball, it was like a laser beam just dished up for his teammates. And there was just this intensity you could tell you were serious. But then when you'd score, there were moments of joy, and it was just, how did you evolve as a player in terms of that balance between really serious, get it done, and still have fun at the game?
I think it's like the Sounders now. The Sounders today are really happy. It's a happy locker room. It's a happy coach. It's a happy general manager. It's a happy owner. It's happy fans. I go to practice, and they're all in it. They're all together. I mean, I think we have a lot of the coaches here tonight. They were doing great. It's a world-class group of coaches. Tommy Dutra, the goalkeeper coach, is outstanding. Is Tommy here? Is Tommy Dutra here? Well, you do a marvellous job, Tommy. But so we were a happy club at Derby County, and I learned as I started to coach. I mean, Neil Mexon's here tonight. He was a great captain for me at the Sounders and at the Tacoma Stars, and we had a deal, Neil and I. He might remember, might not remember it, but same with Bobby Howe when he was with me at the Sounders. Did a great job. You got to assess the mood of the locker room. And occasionally the locker room might not be right. So I pick on Maggie and I can say, there's something wrong here tonight. Maggie, we'll start with you, Captain. Will you shut that F up? You know what I mean? And the atmosphere would change immediately because the players would be thinking, he's picking on the captain. And then we go out and win. But the bottom line is the Sounders are a happy club. Going to get better. I forecast before the season started that we'd go 7-3 after 10 games. We may do better, but a happy club's a great club. So when I played at Derby County, we were very happy, and we won 2 division championships, 2 big league equivalent of EPL, and it was a joy. And the fans are what it's all about. I mean. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of season ticket holders in the room tonight, and the game's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'll tell you this, if the Sounders hadn't done well in 2002, and I think we averaged about 32,000, I don't believe Vancouver and Portland would have come in the next year if we'd have averaged 8,000 or 9,000. So I think the Sounders saved the league. I think the Sounders are the best club in the league without a shadow of a doubt. And we've got very good players, and you know what's significant? They all want to be here. One of the most significant things when we signed Freddie Longberg, it was even better for this club to sign Casey Keller. Casey, you're here tonight, aren't you? I tell you what, I got so much admiration for Casey Keller. He's from Olympia. He played for Clive Charles, who's now gone, bless him, a great guy, good friend of ours. He played for Millwall. He went to Germany. He went to Spain. In Germany, they made him the captain of the team as a goalkeeper. Now, that don't make sense. No, it doesn't. But he must have been overwhelmingly the most strong, personable person in that locker room. And so Casey Keller, when he came back here, he would also play for Fulham and Tottenham, I think. It was perfect timing for Casey to come back home. And for me, Casey was the shining light on this franchise. Great pro. Made us all proud. His last game, 64,000. He made a triple save. It was brilliant. Off body, off feet, off diving. And now he's on the TV and he's doing great. You know why? You can't second guess Casey. You know why? He's done it all. He's paid his dues. Casey, I'm trying to get around you because Casey, I'm trying to get around you, Casey, because I want you to be the next person we're going to roast. Anyway, we'll talk. Thank you. Sorry about that.
One more funny story. The white boots. If you haven't heard the white boot story, this is a good story. This is, these days, coaches sign these huge contracts with Nike and other shoe companies for these shoe endorsement deals, and the coaches make tons of money, sometimes more than is reasonable. But Alan may have been one of the first players to do a shoe endorsement, right?
I was, and I got 1,000 English pounds. Some players who wore the white boots used to wear Adidas and paint them white. They were not the best quality in the world, but £1,000... You could buy a house then for 2, and I think I look stupid. And I'm sure my great coach, Brian Clough, told the players, don't take the mickey out of Alan, because if you do, we'll lose him on the pitch. And and I don't know that for certain, but I'm convinced. So I got a great story. Kevin Keegan, who was a famous soccer player for England, played in Germany, was a good manager of Newcastle. I've gone over to Vancouver Island many years ago to play in a charity match with Kevin. So we're talking about the white boots, and Kevin said to me, he signed from Scunthorpe for Liverpool, and he said they asked him to wear the white boots for £1,000, same as me. So he decided to go to the experienced captain, Tommy Smith, who would kick anybody's legs. And he was getting older, Tommy. We had spots all over his face, and he was tough. Liverpool boy. So he went to the captain. He said, Captain, he said, they want me to wear the white boots. What do you think? So Tommy said, son, the way you're playing, you'll get all the big boys after you. I wouldn't wear them if I were you. Who wore the boots on a Saturday? Tommy Smith. So Kevin went to Tommy Smith, and he says, hey, Captain, you told me not to wear the boots. You're wearing the boots. Why'd you do that? He said, son, when you get to my age, you don't turn down 500 quid. So I used that story with the guy when I was with the Sounders 94. I took that story to Nike. John Della Forest, who loved Keegan, he worked in Newcastle for Nike years ago. And when I told him that story, he gave us $100,000 worth of equipment for the Sounders 1994. So the white boots have been good. And by the way, I had very serious surgery just over 4 years ago. And the white boots, the original white boots, are by my bed. So I'm going in for an 8-hour operation, so I thought I might not make this, so I signed the boots tonight. I signed them. Talking about that, my great doctor is here tonight, Dr. Leann. I tell you what, hey, Garth and Brian, you go meet Dr. Leann and you'll probably sign him because he looks in great shape. So Dr. Leann told me, if you don't have your bladder out, which is cancerous, and they tried to get rid of it by other methods, and he said, if you don't have the bladder out, you'll be dead in 2 years. And I went to my buddy who's here tonight, Phil Greenberg, who's a genius in cancer, who's played soccer with us for years. And by the way, Phil always thought the first 5 yards of offside were for free. I just want to throw that in there. But so I talked to Phil. Dr. Leann took my bladder out. And have a guess what? Just over 4 years later, I'm cancer-free. And I'm... So thank you, Dr. Leann. And Dr. Brad Chope, it was the Seahawk doctor that they found the thing initially, but I'm so pleased to be alive, and I've had care and attention from my wife and daughter and my grandchildren, so I'm very lucky to be alive, but you guys keep me alive by making me feel so happy, so thank you.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Go to the doctor and get a test.
So I want to back up a little bit, Alan. You had...
I mess everybody up, have you noticed?
No, it's all good. You've been very open about this. You had the idyllic life in England. You were a professional soccer player. You had a beautiful family, and then your son Matthew came down with cancer, and it was bad. And it led to one of the dark periods in your life. You've said that openly. I don't want you to go super deep on this because I know it's very painful for you, but what was that like going through that? And then it ended up bringing you to America, right?
Well, it was Matthew, who was 9, loved his mom, same color hair as his mom, curly hair and everything. We thought he had mono, because he was always tired, and then we took him to the hospital, and then eventually they told us that he got a neuroblastoma, which is still a struggle today. And they thought he only had weeks to live, and he actually lived about 3 more months. He died in April 1976, and And then I started hitting the bottle, didn't I? I mean, my career was basically over. I was 34. I was slowing down. I couldn't wait for the pubs to open. And I always remember going to London. We used to have a little boutique and a fashion business, market stalls and everything. And my wife worked so hard in those things and did great. And Jeff Banks, who was a very famous fashion designer in London, I went to see him one Wednesday. And he called me in his office and he said, Alan, I got to talk to you. Every time you come down here, you talk about your son, and all my staff starts to cry. And you've got to get out of it, and you've got to get on with your life, and you've got to be the leader of the family. And he swore at me and he said, get a grip of yourself. So I drove back from London to Derby, which is 3 hours, and I didn't put the radio on, and I'm going, I went round every which way. And I go, he likes me. Jeff Banks really likes me. In fact, he played in my testimonial match later on. And he really gave me a real shake-up. And in the end, he was totally right. And then all of a sudden, we could have gone to Minnesota in '76, but it was too soon. And then the next year, Al Miller, the coach of Dallas, owned by Lamar Hunt, showed up in our village in England. He'd been with Bobby Moore, and Bobby Moore had told him, go and get Alan, there's still some gas in the tank. That's what he said. So this American finished it up in our village, and everybody's going, there's an American in our village, you know. And so he took us out for dinner. So Joy and I and our 7-year-old daughter, Tania, we said, let's go to Dallas for 6 months. And ever guess what? We're still here. So when people say we came to America to play soccer, I did well. They made me the captain. I said, captain's being a left winger. It's like being a goalie captain. I mean, a left winger. So it was a wonderful place to be. The only problem was they gave me a sports car, which was a Toyota Celica. On the back, it had number 20, which was my. It had the big number on and the flag of America. So my wife and daughter, when they went shopping, they'd park it as far from the shops as they could. And Tania had to read the Pledge of Allegiance in the school every day because she was English with an English accent. But we loved Dallas, and it was a wonderful turning point for us. I played well. I think I was relieved to get on the field. I lost quite a lot of weight, and that's the true story.
Wow, that's a great story. Something you tell young players is you have to find a champion in life. And you don't tell them who that is, but you say find a coach, find a person, find someone who believes in you, who will motivate you, and who will also tell you the truth when you need to hear it. As you're telling those stories, Alan, I hear that you're taking your own advice. That's important, though, isn't it? When young players start out, find a champion, find that person, that coach who believes in you, right?
I think that's very important. You know, your parents are champions. I know my headmaster was a champion of mine, George Noakes, who had one eye. He was the chief scout of Wolves. He lived in my town. He used to watch me play, and he'd go, the left winger's a good player. And we go, you can't see him, George. You've got your eyes covered up. But everybody's got to, I mean, you can go around the room here with all these players who have had a good time out of the game. Everybody's got a champion. I'd like to think I've been a champion for a few, because there's a lot of people in this room who I absolutely love to death, who played for me. There's the group from 94, 95, all Seattle boys. And we won the A-League in 94. We won the championship in 95. There's a man in here who's come all the way from Virginia named Neil Farnsworth. And I'll tell you what he did. I was coaching his boy, at Crossfire Sounders, which we really started for 12 years, Crossfire Sounders. The reason the Crossfire came from my pal Bill Hermie, who has done a lot for me and for soccer. So for 12 years we did Crossfire. John Morris, who's here tonight, was my assistant coach at Crossfire. Great people. So Neil Farnsworth came to me. His son Chris was on the team, and he said, correct me if I'm wrong later, Neil, if you like, but you said to me, what's the pro game like? And you wanted me to explore what was going on here. So I got back to Neil and I said, the A-League needs the 7th team. So we pushed and pushed and pushed and finally got in there. And I'm going to tell you something now. If Neil Farnsworth had not paid the bills for the Sounders in 1994, and we had several good years, I don't believe the Seattle Sounders would be around today. Not because they wouldn't be around, but they would have had a different name. And furthermore, I know how much he lost, but I'm not going to tell you, but it was a substantial amount of money, but he made a lot of people happy. And he should be very proud, Neil, of the fact that you also told the ownership of the Sounders, you're better off recreating a brand that was successful, like the Sounders from all those years ago, than trying to bring out another name. Because the Sounders ownership then were looking to have another name. So I think Neil Farnsworth, give him a round of applause for doing that. Yep.
So during the panel discussion, we'll talk a little bit more. I tried to do as much homework as I could, and I still can't keep straight all the different leagues, the indoor and the USL and the NASL, and but these guys all played and coached in these leagues. All right, now we are getting to the friends part of the program tonight. You know, they say that life is a series of intersections of people and places and times, and that's certainly true about the distinguished panel I'm about to introduce. All of these men have a long history with Alan. All have contributed a great deal to the game of soccer, especially here in the Northwest. And all of them, I'm sure, have some dirt on Alan. And this is where it's going to get good. The Seattle Times said this was going to be a roast, but somehow I think these guys are going to take it a little bit easy on Alan tonight. So let me introduce the panel members. First up, Marcus Hahnemann, All-American goalkeeper for SPU, U.S. men's national team, 12 years in England's top 2 leagues. Marcus Hahnemann. Next up is Bernie James, a 24-year professional, longtime youth coach with Crossfire Premier Soccer. Give it up for Bernie James. Brian Schmetzer, former professional player and current head coach of the Seattle Sounders FC. And finally, Jeff Stock, former professional defender in various leagues, but in my book, the coolest side note as the former owner and current operator of Wild Waves Theme Park in Federal Way. Jeff Stock. So,
You've got to get a chair, gentlemen. You've got to get
grab some chairs. Let's gather around the fire and have a chat.
To this side, to that side.
Here's a water too for you.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, come over here.
I've got one.
You good? Okay.
Steady on, guys. Steady on, guys. I didn't mean to cut you.
Okay. First, I'd like to welcome you guys. Thank you for taking the time to be here. And I know that this is going to be a fun part of the evening because we're going to tell some fun stories, talk about, Alan, past and present. Brian, I'd like to start with you. The story goes that Alan discovered you when you were playing soccer for Nathan Hale at a game and discovered you and recruited you.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. I think Freddie Hamill's in the audience tonight. The story goes Al drafted Freddie. Freddie was the best player on our team, the Lake City Hawks. Al came to watch Freddie, and we went down to a field down in Georgetown, and I was playing left midfield, and I cut the ball in on my right foot. This was the only time I scored with my right foot ever. And it went up in the upper corner, and Al said, I'm going to sign that kid, and he signed Freddie as well. So congrats to Freddie. Thanks to Freddie.
Yeah, Freddie. And poor old Freddie, who was here tonight, Bobby Howe was my assistant coach, and he took me to the game, and Freddie Hamill was going to be the best player. But then Brian did exactly what he said. I'll never forget it. He went in the upper V. I said to Bobby, I think we got another one here. And we signed both of them. Unfortunately, Freddie had a bad injury, and Brian went on and became the success he is today.
Freddie's a good over 50s player, though.
But he's a professor now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's smarter than all of us.
He's a professor. maybe going to CLU. Is he a professor at CLU?
UPS.
Oh, UPS. Oh, that's a business school. All right.
So Alan, Brian has brought a video with him tonight. I'll let Brian introduce the video.
Well, with help from some of the Sounders staff, but everybody knows Alan Hinton. Correct? You hope so?
I'm a busybody.
Well, let's find out. Let's see.
Nathan, have you heard of Alan Hinton?
First time.
All right, Leo, you ever heard of Alan Hinton?
I have not. Who is he?
Have you heard of Alan Hinton?
No, have not.
Maybe you've heard of him from your earlier days?
Oh, back in my elementary school days, yes. Great guy. Was he the rugby player? No, the Sounder coach. Oh, that's right. Oh, I know him. Oh, yes. He was like a father of mine. Matter of fact, I think he owes me $20 still.
Have you heard of Alan Hinton?
Never in my life.
Guys, have we heard of Alan Hinton?
Alan who?
Have you heard of Alan Hinton?
I have heard of Alan Hinton. He must be kind of getting to be an old guy by now.
What do you have to say about Alan Hinton?
Legend.
They should have come to my pub.
One of my favorite moments with Alan was when the Sounders won the MLS Cup, and you and I and Chris Egan were sitting together on the set while the Sounders were going through town. And I could tell that day was one of the most important days of your life, because you saw the work that you'd done over your life come full circle in this man over here and his team. What was that day like? And, you know, when you see Brian now, what's it like seeing him as the coach of this franchise?
Well, I was very lucky to go on the charter with the Sounders. And I went down the locker room after we'd won that first major trophy for the club. I'm talking about major. Jimmy Gabriel finished second in 77. We lost in the final, 82. So from that moment when I went in the locker room and they were singing and so happy, especially Roman Torres, who was the film star scoring the winning goal, I called Brian Sir Brian. And he goes, what are you calling me sir for? I go, you've just done something none of us have done in 40 years. You've won the big one. And I call him sir now. He's very modest, but we did draft him, and he played for me at the Tacoma Stars. I got one story about him. Hey, Dick McCormick, hey, listen to this. We're going on the field at the Tacoma Stars game, and his mate, Dick McCormick, I looked at his shoes, and he got paint all over his shoes. He got paint all over his shoes, and I go, what are you doing? You got paint on your shoes? You're going to play in front of 15,000 with paint on your shoes? What you been doing? He says, I've been doing some painting for Brian Schmetzer.
You didn't pay him enough. We had to get him some odd jobs.
Now,
No,
Okay,
I would cut in on that story, Al, but with Bernie, Meggie, Bobby, everybody here. You guys all laid the foundation for what we have today. It's Chance, it's everybody in the room, Billy Crook, Jeff's, the guy sitting on my left, plenty of good times down the left-hand side there. I mean, it's been a group effort to win the first trophy. You're a big part of it. Everybody up here on stage is a big part of it. And thank you for coming out and supporting us all the time, Al.
I think what's even more special, and I'm around all the soccer guys, there's many here tonight who I could talk about for half an hour, but we all love Brian because of his success. He's paid his dues. He's a local boy. He's a local Seattle boy, and he'll be Coach of the Year this year. I'm so happy he didn't get the U.S. job because I thought he was worthy of it. And we're in for a good long time here.
Now you're getting carried away. I didn't pay him any money, but I'm going to right now.
So, Jeff, you played for Alan on several different teams, and you have kind of an interesting story on the first meeting with Alan.
My first meeting with Alan was in London. It was Mark Peterson, Eddie Kruger, and I, and Alan gave us a call. Let me set this up first. Mark Peterson and I signed in 1978 in June, and we signed an amateur contract, which is called an amateur contract because we wanted to play for the 1980 Olympic team. And which was in June, and we weren't sure we could make the first team. The most you can make is $1,000 a month. They can pay for your apartment, give you a little bit extra for food. Yeah, no. Well, I didn't get it. So during the first year, 78 to 79, Peterson and I, as well as another local kid, Jeff Durgan, got on the youth national team and Olympic team. And I saw Ty Keel here, who I haven't seen since play with him in a USA jersey in 30 years. It's amazing how many people have showed up, and this is really fun, isn't it? Hey, Ty Keel flew in from St. Louis. 30 years? At least 30 years. Yeah. So anyway, let's fast forward to signed in 78. We spent most of the time on tour with the Olympic team and the U.S. team, sometime with the Sounders reserves. And the season came to an end in August, and Harry Redknapp, who was in that team, who was a real character, and Bobby Howe, and we had 4 months off. Well, I went to Harry and Bobby and said, hey, and Jimmy Gabriel was actually the coach. And so is there any way I can keep playing? Because we didn't, first off, we were young. We weren't, we matured to the professional level, and I wanted to keep playing. And so Harry made some contacts in England. He got us a gig at West Ham. Not playing, but training with the reserve team there. And once a week, we got to play with the first team. Now, the games on Saturdays, West Ham was in the Premier League. At the time, it was First Division. The Sounders got us on a club in the Third Division. So we had our games. We trained with West Ham, went and played in the Third Division. Okay, so Eddie was the leader. He was a year older. I think he had a few games that year for the Sounders. And Harry Redknapp used to just give us a car, and every other week we'd have to bring it in because he sold it and gave us another one. That's Harry. He did. He just threw a bucket of water on it. It sold. So anyway, the rule was game starts at 1, be at the training field or at the grounds by noon. Eddie, who was the driver, was running a little bit late, so he's 10 minutes late. So we're late, and you got going down London. Traffic was pretty bad, so we took some side roads. The problem we had was there was this delivery truck that was sitting kind of almost in the middle of the road, and we couldn't get by. So we're sitting there for 5 minutes, and Eddie's honking in the horn. He's the driver. I'm in the back seat. Mark's up front. And lo and behold, Eddie says, we got to get going, and I think I can make this, okay? So he tries to go between the car that's parked this way and the truck, and sure enough, we hear a scrape. We're stuck. We can't go forward. We can't go back. Okay, so they all get the only door that could open, because we were stuck halfway, was my side. So we all crowd out back. We're looking for the guy. Here comes the cops. And it's not a siren. It's the one they have in England. The cop actually didn't give us a ticket. We're trying to find that guy. We told him our situation. So it's about 1 o'clock. Game starts at 1. We're about a half hour from the grounds. And they finally found the guy that had the truck. So he moved it. We went back. Instead of going to the game, we went back to the park. We knew we were in trouble anyway, so we might as well get it the next day. Next day, Alan calls, okay? And we just found out that a week before that Jimmy Gabriel, Alan Hinton has replaced him. Now, I know who I grew up in a baseball family. I know who Reggie Jackson is. I know who Vida Blue is. I don't know who Alan Hinton is, you know? But unlike that up there, we met, he said, meet tomorrow at noon at the pub, and it was Bobby Moore's pub. Morals, yeah. And so we're all there nervous, and Alan comes in, and unlike that, he was a celebrity. Everybody's coming up saying hi. It took him 15 minutes just to get to the table. So he sits down at the table, and he goes, how are you guys doing? You know, like, he's in your, how you doing? Having a good time? Yeah, he goes, I got a problem. He winds his finger. I got a problem with you guys. First time we met him, okay? So what's the problem? You guys didn't make the game. He goes, I tried to tell him, I don't care what happened. You always make a game. You find 1,000 euros. Okay, we made $1,000 a month, and at that time, they didn't wire it to a bank. It went through Western Union, and they took like 90% of the money. So we were only getting 450 euros in England, you know? And when he said it, he was, and so Alan being this, you know, big figure in England, everybody's watching the bar, and we're sitting there all going, Alan, we only make 500 euros. And he goes, and he's always got to answer for everything. He sat there and he goes, all right, you're on probation.
So that was the first meeting. Bernie, talk about how far you guys go back. You and Alan go back, and you've done such a great job with Crossfire over the years as a coach. How did Alan influence you as a coach?
Well, we go back about the same amount of time they do, and I went to Edmonton instead of playing for the Sounders because they had center backs better than me. So I went there and played, which everyone should do, is go somewhere where they play rather than watch. But I knew Alan through the NASL, and then I played for him indoor and then outdoor with the A-League, and we worked together at Crossfire, and I've known him ever since. He's a great guy. And a lot of the stuff he does to all of us, I do to my kids that I coach. And I learned a ton of things from Alan. I think he's awesome. I could tell you a funny story involving Peter Hattrip with Alan. So Alan's pissed after the game because we lose, and he says, Brian Schmetzer, you're crap. Stock, you're crap. Keel, you're crap. And he looks at Peter Hattrip, who's a rookie, and he goes, if you were any good, I wouldn't have to play any of them. I mean, he's right. When he'd give Megs, he'd plan it in front of, with Neil, so all the other players, I mean, it was just amazing. Some of the stuff he did was just, it's unbelievable. Every week it's something different. I could go here for 30 stories with these guys for 2 hours. I mean, they're just unbelievable.
We'll do that later, probably.
Yeah.
Hey, Bernie, do me a favor and just have the guys stand up from the 94-95 team. That was a big deal. It was a great group of guys that won for the Sounders and the A-League.
Yeah, they're all here. Neil Megson.
Stand up. All you guys stand up.
Well, Andy. Yeah. I know, I'll miss a couple guys. And really, I don't know why Dickie and Neil Megson aren't up here, because they were clearly his favorites. Neil Megson was, there's no question, his favorite. I'll tell you another story. I'm playing for Tacoma Stars, and you know, you do shifts like in hockey, and I come off, I'm standing next to Alan, and someone dribbles around Neil and scores, and he goes, Bernie, where were you helping them? And I go, Al, I'm right next to you. And he says, shut up. Neil Megson should be, and Neil's it's his stepson. Neil and Dickie, it's just Gary Hill.
I would let Alan defend himself at this point, but that might take too long.
Yeah, there's no defending. That's a fact.
I got a lovely story. I got dozens of stories about Bernie. But you know what? For a big guy, he was a tough player. he has a very, very kind heart. When I went to meet him about this function, he was right in there with $2,000, right away. That's Bernie.
Generous guy.
So we used to go to the coffee shop down in Park Place every morning. Pete Fewing's wife used to come by sometimes, Patty, and so one day he comes in, he's got a problem. I said, "What's your problem, Bernie?" He said, "My cat needs to have an operation on her leg, and the cat don't like me." So I then started talking to all the ladies and saying, what do you think? And they were going to hit him with a handbag and everything. "You cheapskate, you get the cat done." So we did. 2 weeks later he comes in, the cat still don't like me.
Marcus, I want to bring you in. You've got some fun stories about Alan as a coach, and dustbin soccer is one.
Yeah, that was the classic game we used to play. It was so we were at Memorial Stadium, and if anybody was at the final and saw Andraki hit the post and it moved a foot, and you realized that the goal was made out of steel, realized why his face was split open. But so the goals were too heavy to move, so we played dustbin soccer. We'd bring the garbage cans out, and we would play to the garbage cans every day. That was our training session, and professional team. Yeah, we were professional. I think Hatrip had. I saw him out at Mary Moore the other day. He played dustbin soccer.
You guys
I'm bringing it
play
back.
Shirts and skins too.
Yeah,
right?
shirts and skins for sure. And so Alan, one training session, he's up at Memorial Stadium, and if you know Memorial Stadium, right, the stadium is east-west, right? So Alan's in the north stand because that's where he gets the most sun. So he's sitting there with the shirt off in the stands, right? He's red, and like you can see, he's English, so he doesn't tan, right? So he's like completely red, right? Sitting in the stands. And I don't know if it was Farrell. Farrell, if it was you, I apologize, but I'm going to call Farrell because I know he's here. Couldn't cross the ball to save his life. So Farrell can't get a cross in, and I don't know if it's from the left side or something at training, and here comes Alan, and he goes, hold it, and he's like, "That's not how you cross the ball. What are you doing?" And he walks down out of the stands, right? Takes like 5 minutes, and we're like, oh, here we go. Here comes Alan. Belly, and Alan's really fit now, so I don't know what happened, but because me and Bernie are getting fatter, Alan's getting skinnier, so we're doing it the wrong way. Alan's belly is like this, so he's now going to go down and cross the ball. And I'm sitting there going, like, don't injure yourself, right? Because that's Memorial Stadium, and we had some great staff. It was like Soup was there, I think, or Bruce, somebody, but we're not really ready for Alan to be injured. And so Alan comes down, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll show you how to cross the ball. You guys are a bunch of Muppets." And he comes down, and I'm like, oh, sake. And so Alan comes in, and he hits this left-footed cross, and I'm like, holy, I can't even come get this. The ball's whipped in, and he goes, "And that's how you do it." And then he just walks back up to the stands, and he sits down, and his belly's out. So that was my first professional coach, right? So I don't know if Kovats is here. Is Kovats here? He might not be. But Kovats, we were in a bar at, I think we were in Issaquah. And he goes, and we were sitting there, I don't know, practice was with Eastside or something was canceled. And he goes, "Hey, you played for all these great coaches. And, I played for Alan Pardue in the Premier League, Jean Tigana, who won the World Cup with France." And he goes, "So who are the best coaches, you've had all these great, who's your best coach?" And I'm sitting there going, I have had some good coaches. And I'm thinking, well, who is the most influential in my career? And you think, well, that's Cliff and Alan. And Mark's like, "Oh, you're so you're And so he starts off on Cliff, right? And he's like, "Cliff," he goes, "Are you kidding me? Who coached that team?" It was Bobby Mack, and Bobby's here, Paul Mendez, and he goes, "Those guys really coached the team," and and John Richardson, who's my goalie coach then. And I go, "Yeah, but Cliff picked them," right? And everything that happens, right, happens for a reason. And the next thing you know, the Sounders start up, and I think I was the luckiest person alive because I'm now playing college soccer, and next thing you know, the Sounders start up in '94, and Alan comes in, and funny enough, it's me and Dusty who are the goalkeepers. And I remember playing in the Tacoma Dome. all those games. We had such a great mix of pro players, like the older guys, and a good mix of young guys. It was an amazing time, and I mean, there's so many stories, and I don't know how many times I heard Al say, "Thank God for Meggie. You guys are all useless." Yeah, that is 100% true. That is not made up. Yeah.
You know, there's all these five. They're special people. They are kind people. We could talk all night about the things they've done. A great story about Marcus when he was with Fulham. I took a boys' team over there, and we were staying in Windsor. I took the boys to a pantomime, and that was a big mistake. They never got it. So Marcus came to see the boys. And then Marcus went on loan to Rochdale, which is on the British train system between London and Scotland. And I know this for a fact because I was at a game a couple of years ago, and the scout from Rochdale was watching a game with me. He said, "I've got a Marcus Hahnemann story." He said, "I picked him up from the train, and there was a lady getting mugged. And then Marcus ran after this guy and whooped him out, and the lady went mugged." Now that's Marcus. And but you know, they all love this community. And Ty, he's come from St. Louis, but Ty loves everybody, and we all love Ty. We've been to Mexico how many times?
Dozens.
We've been to Vancouver Island. We've been to Phoenix. Well, I nearly broke my neck, but you know. But I did score a great goal.
That's a whole other story. We might get into that. I'm not sure. But Alan, back at you. You're a lovely man. Obviously, you love people. You love the game, and you've got the stories. And I remember seeing a bumper sticker once. It said, "The guy that wins, the guy that ends up with the most toys wins." And I don't think so. I think the guy that ends up with the most friends and the best stories wins. And Alan, you're a massive winner. No question.
You know what I think is really interesting about tonight? We've heard from each of these guys, and so many of you in the audience, that coaching and the culture of soccer is about selflessness. It's about helping the other guy grow. It's about making others around you reach their potential, or at least helping. So when I look at Alan as the first coach of the Sounders, and then I look at Brian, who was recruited by Alan, I just see this incredible synergy and this connectedness that's really hard to explain. But it's beautiful because these guys all care about each other and they care about the game. Brian, as you're coaching, I know a lot of stuff is out of your control, but what was it about your connection to Alan in the early days that shaped who you are as a coach today?
Oh, I think it's all the stories and the man management stories. I remember Neil and I used to try and sneak in with a 12-pack of beer. We'd stuff the advertisements in the side because the plastic bag was clear, but you always caught us. You always knew before.
You knew when you were going to come in as well.
Yeah, you knew. You knew everything.
If you were with Neil, it was okay.
Yeah.
That's why Brian's the coach.
I mean, that was my favorite, you know.
Yeah. Well, he said that, Al. He said that. Okay. No, but to Mark, to answer your question, I mean, it's management. Alan is a very good manager of people. He knows how to get the best out of all of us. All of us had played for him. And I take a lot of those same things to the teams that I've coached, youth coaches, the USL team, and the pros. You have to manage people, and you have to try and figure out a way how to needle them at the right time and figure out a way how to put your arm around them and tell them they're great.
Well, hey, from the best coach in America, that means a lot to me.
So, Alan, I really got to know you more playing over 40 and over 50 soccer. In Mexico, like you mentioned, some of those tournaments. And I think we should mention the FTI team and Gibby and Stavros, El Presidente.
Stavros and...
Yeah, great times and just wonderful playing next to you and alongside you. And oh, yeah, magnificent. And I don't know, Bernie, you want to tell the story about the brilliant goal Alan scored. It might have been better than any of the ones we saw
when
we were playing in Arizona, right?
We were in Phoenix, like an over 40 tournament. He's 55, and we're in the final.
59.
60 maybe. I don't even know how old he was. But Hatchup goes down the line and beats like 3 guys like he always does, cuts it back to Alan Hinton, and he smashes it in the top corner. And I don't know if Casey's still here, but I remember
bending ball.
Pete and I were going, that would score in Casey Keller. And he was like 55. And he's running around like a madman and does a forward roll and breaks his neck. He said to Tania the next day, oh, my arm's a little sore. He comes home, goes out, he has a broken neck.
That's a goal celebration. Let me tell you. He was you know what?
That's an idiot.
Alan always had his own private cheering section wherever we went, right?
Hey, somehow the story from Victoria, the over 50s, when you guys lost, has to come out.
Oh, well, Pete could do the speech. Pete could do this, yeah.
Come on, Pete.
Come on, Pete.
You got to do the winning. You got to do the winning speech first.
First of all, what is this speech rated? Is it
the same as every?
Yeah.
Now, we went to Mexico, and the leader of the group was Stavros Anastasio, who's here tonight, and we've had the best times ever with you, Stavros.
So originally, we went up and we played both over 40s and then eventually over 48s, and we went a long stretch where we won pretty much all the time. And at the end, Alan would get up during the trophies presentation, and they'd hand him the mic, and he'd start speaking. Say, we like to come up here. We think we're going to entertain. We think we've entertained everybody. We want to congratulate the other team, Nomads or whatever your name was. So that was the common post-championship speech. But the over 50s lost one year, or I think it was 55s. And they were playing with 9.5 guys. Alan was coaching, partially from the beer garden, partially from the sideline. So those of us that weren't playing, because we weren't quite that age yet, were sitting on the sidelines and kind of congratulating the guys for giving a good effort, because the team they put out there really shouldn't have been winning. But Alan came over after the game and said, guys, we've got to make a decision. And I really thought he was going to tell them, we got to decide whether we would just want to keep bringing up our buddies or we got to find some more guys. No. Al, as we all do as players, when we flash back to when we could really play, Al flashed back to when he was really getting paid to coach. And he looked at them all and he said, some of you guys just don't want to listen. You're only playing for yourselves. You won't do what the rest of us need to do. You don't listen to me. Now, granted, he was in the beer garden during the game, but you won't listen to me. And those Ian Bridge and some of the guys that had played from before kind of had a private chuckle. Those of us that weren't playing on a team just buried our heads so he didn't see us laughing. But it was comical, but it was also, even at that, Alan was still wanted to win. It's like, we don't come up here for you guys to lose. I can't accept this. Not if I'm part of the team.
It's a great story. I wish this could go on for another 3 hours. This is so much fun. We've got to wrap up this part, and then Alan's going to say a few words. But in just a couple of words, Marcus, why don't we start with you? What does Alan mean to you?
Well, I mean, like I said, when you look back at, you know, my whole career, everything I had. I mean, I started playing youth soccer, you name it, and, you know, playing at SPU, and then all of a sudden playing for Alan. That was the whole start of everything. You know, I had a basis from Cliff of what a team meant, and then going on to the Sounders back in the old A-League, and that team spirit, what the Sounders, we would go and singing Jingle Bells. I'm sure you guys have all seen videos of that. Maggie's doing it. Yeah. Thank God for Maggie. Here we go again.
First it was Maggie.
It's Maggie. It's Maggie. Thank God for Maggie. Yeah, it's always Maggie. And but those little things that instilled in my career, right, as a person and then as a pro, of going out and working as a team and what it meant and all those different things. And that's what Alan kind of brought to the table. And it wasn't necessarily coaching, per se. It was more about the team and going
didn't
out.
like coaching. I didn't like X's and O's. I like set plays, defense and offense, and I like getting players in the right position who wanted to play for the club and for me. And that's an ingredient for success and will be forever and a day. And I got all the Seattle boys. A lot of them are here tonight. Jason Farrell was a good winger. Peter was an exceptional winger. I always had good wingers. Tommy Hutchison, for instance. We made a right mess up when we didn't sign him the second year. But I'm going to tell you what happened when I came to Seattle. Clive Toy wanted Ian Bridge, offered us $250,000 for Ian Bridge. He just got a lot of money from Toronto, from manufacturers Hanover. He offered us $150,000 for Jimmy Mack, whose son's here tonight, good player. So I said, you can have Jimmy Mack for $150,000. Because I knew I got an international, David Nish, to come in here, and Jeff Stock was coming through great as well. And Brian was also a left-sided player. I took the $150,000. I went back to Tulsa that had fired me the end of the previous season. My last game for Tulsa was in front of 76,000 fans in New York. And they fired me, mainly because I had 4 players who were owed money, and I went to bat for the players. So anyway, I took the $150,000. I got Roger Davis. I got David Nish and Jack Brand. By the way, Jack Brand sent us $500 for this Washington Legends. Isn't that lovely? So they wanted, we got $150,000 for the 3, and they wanted $30,000 extra if we signed Jack Brand, because he was saying, I'm going to quit, I'm going to quit, I'm going to quit. So I said to Jack Daly, pay him $10,000, and you and I go to Germany. And we met his family, wined and dined him, and we signed him here, and he did great. But the bottom line is that, and it's like the Coluchos, when they were best owners. Vince Colucho lived by the airport. I remember Bobby and I being at the airport, and he'd come and say goodbye to the players, Vince would. So we're playing in California Surf that night, and again, Bobby said, the atmosphere's not really good here. What they didn't see, Vince gave me $300 in cash. And he said, buy the boys a drink if you win. So before the game, I said, oh, you didn't see the gaffer give me $300, and I put him up $300. And I said, the deal is, if you win, I'm going to give it Huddy, who loved to drink. But if you lose, Bobby and I are going to have one great night out. Yeah. Now, first of all, they didn't want us to have a night out, and we won easy. But there's a million stories. I agree with you, Mark. We could continue here for hours. Let's do this again with different people. And we've got to bring the soccer people together, because I'm sure many people here tonight have seen people you haven't seen for years. And with such a great soccer community, and this event is typical of what's happening in England almost every week. Let's do it more with more people. Casey, are you in, Casey, next time?
I think Casey's in. Bernie, we're just about out of time. A few words about what Alan means to you.
Well, I mean, I'm still in coaching, and I love it. And I think I love it because of Alan. He did a great job and had a lot of personality. And he's more than a coach, though. He's a super good guy with a good heart. And I think that's more important. But he's also a great coach. I love his wife and his daughter. Good family. Great guy.
Brian?
Fran O'Brien.
I thought it was Paddy's week. Supposed to be out drinking.
Just get away.
I'm not sure if this was planned, but it's a nice moment.
He's Fran O'Brien. I've been trying to find him. I couldn't find him. He was the MVP for me, 1984, playing for the Whitecaps. And then he came to the Tacoma Stars. We did brilliant. Remember that Christmas time when Rolf Black and Tony Chersky's having a Rolf Black and Tony Chersky's having a punch-up, which happens often in indoor soccer. Franna gets in the middle like the captain, and he got punched in the mouth, and he says, "And a Merry Christmas to you too." Remember that?
Just a quick, good to see you all, by the way. Yeah, great to see you guys. I just thought I'd throw it out, running late, practicing kids. Rolling around in the turf, sorry, yeah. But anyway, congratulations, Alan. A pleasure to be here. I wish you all the best.
Great. Thank you.
Well, it is the luck of the Irish, isn't it?
Well, I think you know, the deal with Matthew is a sad day, but I think you have been a father figure to so many of us, including myself, and I think that's one of your legacies. So thank you.
I do call them, my wife will tell you, I call them my boys. And my grandson is named Matteo after our son Matthew. So, and he's at Santa Clara Business School. He's a smart ass, better than me. But, you know, we have a lovely family. I've got a great daughter. But my family has always been the soccer boys, you know. And, I mean, look at Francis coming up like that. I thought you were going to roast me. I haven't slept for 2 nights thinking you're going to flip it.
Jeff.
Well, I just like to expand on what Brian said, because Alan actually had me since I was 18 and pretty much my whole career, to be honest with you, through Seattle. Traded for me with the Whitecaps and then the Tacoma Stars. So thanks, Dad.
Hey, let's give it up for the panel, you guys. Thank you so much.
Mark,
Yeah.
Let Pete tell
Okay,
one
Pete.
story, and it involves Alan and Bernie. Please tell the story. Please.
Which one is it?
Okay, I'll tell one before I sum up Alan a little bit. So, in '95, when we were back with the Sounders.
Yeah, quicker than this, though.
Okay. It'd go faster if your bald head wouldn't keep interrupting. So it wasn't fancy like today, so if we needed to run tickets up to will call, we had to do it ourselves. But Alan turned to Bernie one day and he said, "Bernie, could you run my tickets up?" Because Bernie wasn't in the lineup. He was cryogenically frozen for a couple of years.
Well, because Neil was always in.
Yeah. So,
Thank God for
so
Maggie.
Bernie said, "No problem, Al, I'll run the tickets up." And as Bernie leaves to do that, a couple minutes later, Al wants to start the team meeting. He says, "Okay, lock the locker room door." And we lock the door, and Alan starts his talk, and all of a sudden the door rattles a little bit, and I'm sitting there, and then the knock, and I unlock it. Bernie sticks his head in. "Bernie James, what the f*** are you doing?" And he goes, "Al, I was taking you." "No one cares what you were doing, Bernie. Shut the f*** up and get in here."
Oh, yeah.
So, but a testament to Alan and Marcus being the exception. I think at one time or another, the rest of us were probably both signed and either released or moved on by Alan. And we're still here today because how much we care for him. So it goes beyond just playing for him. It's how much
you did go to Major League Soccer, and there's no way I was going to stop you doing that. You know that. Jason Farrell went to Major League.
You cut him from the Stars, Al.
That was a different time.
Okay.
Shut up, Bernie James. This is my story.
I have completely lost
That's
control.
part of the problem, Al. You can't remember.
Let's give it up for the panel, you guys. Thank you so much. Okay, so you guys stay put. Alan has just a couple of words. He wants to talk a little bit about the Sounders and a little bit about City, too.
I want to give a big shout out to the GSSL. They were very much represented here today. And Tracy, the president, is marvelous. 200 teams in the GSSL. After every game, they fill the pubs like we used to. And the third half is important, but the GSSL is a marvelous league. They all play in the GSSL. Big shout out for Per Tonning, who's been involved with the Kings for many, many years. He has a lot of people here tonight. He's a dear, dear friend. He's donated, I'm not going to say millions, but a lot of money into making this team successful. We have a cup of coffee every Saturday morning with the Kings, and we all talk about the Sounders and how proud they are of Brian and everything else. And thanks for everybody else coming. If I've missed anybody out, that was my biggest fear before the night started, but I've been a mess over this, but I'm so thrilled that we've all come together. We're doing so much good work for these youth players, because do you realize what we're doing with the kids, but especially all of these that are current coaches and people in the audience? You're keeping the kids safe. You're not just teaching them soccer, you're teaching them life, and you keep them busy. So the parents should ever be grateful. And I want to thank you for all you do, Bernie at Crossfire, Chance Fry at Eastside FC, and all the other guys that are here. Thank you for making this night successful. Just a couple of things to say about Ziggy Smid. He was a marvelous man. He was a marvelous friend of mine. After every game, he'd be with me till maybe 1 o'clock in the morning at the 13 Coins in Bellevue. He was a neighbor of ours. We went to his celebration of life. Brian was there and many of the Sounders. And there was probably 1,000 people there. And he was a great man. He loved this town. He really has left things in a remarkable manner. Mr. Schmetzer here got the job, and he deserved it. There was no suggestion that Brian had ever said a negative word about Ziggy, which is important to me as a person who knows the ins and outs of what goes on. And Brian, who was interim coach, aced it and then got the permanent job. And I think it's really remarkable what's going on. Ziggy Smid, we had a fundraiser several years ago for Alan Hudson, who was a great player. I put some money in. Have a guess who was second in right behind me? Ziggy Smid. I have a 100% blind friend who's now on the front row of the supporters section. Ziggy made a fuss of him. There was a kid who was a special needs kid from Cleveland when he was coaching in Columbus. Came to his celebration. Ziggy was a gentle giant. Don't ever think he was a big drinker, because he was not. He'd have one glass of Malbec, or he might have a Beck's beer, but he wasn't a big drinker. After he left the Sounders, I begged him to retire. But he died doing what he loved doing, which was coaching. And we were very blessed to have him here. And he's left a huge legacy here. And we all miss him, but he's gone, but will never be forgotten. What else was I going to talk about?
I think that was it.
And again, on behalf of my family, who are great, my wife and my daughter and my 3 grandchildren, one of them's here tonight, my little one Isabel, and all the volunteers, and our team, led by Gary Wright, who's a legendary Seahawks guy, loves soccer, the Seahawks, and the Central Links press box is named after Gary Wright. But we've had a wonderful team of people, professionals working really hard on this event. And to everybody on the team, you did a marvelous job. And thank you so much for coming. Do you want to do this kind of thing again? Okay. Okay, well, we'll do the best we can, but thank you so much. Thank you, Brian.
All right, we're going to bring Cliff back up.
Okay, so it's not over yet, Dad. Well, in a minute. You're going to just sit there. And by the way, I'll see you in the bathroom afterwards, because at Seattle Pacific, you weren't allowed to use that kind of language, so you and I are going to have a come to meeting. Yeah. We're going to have a come to meeting, Jesus. And all.
Sorry, Cliff. Just to defend myself, those were not my words. Those were quotes.
I knew that.
That's okay.
So, first of all, we honor you, you honor us, and right now we're going to bring out Billy O'Neill, who happens to be the founder, owner, and president of Wide-Eyed Studio, and he's got a little presentation to make to you. He was the executive director for over a decade at Chihuly, and Billy O'Neill happened to play for Uncle Nubby, and he was one of these great, there he goes.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Wow, that's lovely.
It's actually kind of interesting being in the room. There's two people who have cut me in my life, you and him. So it's kind of, I've been cut more than anyone in this room. It's kind of impressive. So anyway, congratulations, Alan. Yeah.
We didn't cut you. They said that we couldn't keep extra people. Now I'm going to ask Councilman Pete Van Reichbauer to come out. Pete has a special little message for you. And Pete, you can use my microphone since it's pretty contaminated.
Coach, in your native England, when you have achieved as much as you have done on the field and off the field, they would often knight you. And then the monarch would probably give you the land and not charge any taxes for the rest of your life. You're not in your native land. Coach, you're not going to be knighted. And if you think King County is not going to tax you, you've had a lot too many Guinness. But we do have a proclamation making this, in the remaining 30 minutes left in the day, your day, on behalf of the things you've done. This is Alan Hinton Day in King County.
Wow.
And we are...
He's going to read the proclamation. Yep. He's got to read the proclamation, so...
Alan, this is a recognition. Alan, whether there's a former player who's 55 years old or a 5-year-old who's playing on a soccer field tomorrow, they're all part of your legacy. Your legacy is saving soccer and making soccer grow. And on behalf of King County, thank you for all you do for others. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. And finally, we're going to ask a beautiful young woman to come out here who happens to be your daughter. So Tania, she doesn't like public recognition. Her mother doesn't like public recognition. We were going to grace them with flowers and bouquets. So what I'm going to tell you right now is what she has in her hand is prepared by the Hummel Shoe Company, who no longer makes white shoes. So when you get home, you can get the paint out and do anything you want with this. But it says here, an evening with Alan Hinton and friends, March 19th, 2019, presented to Mr. Soccer by Hummel and your daughter. And what we can say, I'll add my postscript to the sort of off-coloring stuff here that went on with these committee of 7. I can tell you that when you first came to town, and I was fortunate to be involved with those early Sounders, as well as the current team, you were our hero when you came here. And I got to tell you, you're my hero here tonight.
Cliff, I feel the same about you.